Hi everyone, I'm back to read Chapter 6 from our Book 4, called Troubles for Cecile, set in 1853, and Chapter 6 is called Prayers and Hope. Cecile had never stayed awake all night before, but she was so worried that she couldn't sleep a bit. Finally, she got up and asked Maman what she could do to help. Maman gratefully asked her to take Tante Tay's place, sitting with Ellen. Cecile slipped into Ellen's room, and silently Tante Tay hugged her and settled her into the rocking chair near the bed. Ellen's eyes were closed, and her face looked very pale in the candlelight. Cecile suddenly realized how often Ellen had cheered her with a smile or kind word. She swallowed hard. "We'll take good care of you, Ellen," she whispered. "Please get well." And through the hours of darkness, Ellen tossed fitfully but did not wake. Cecile listened as Dr. Gardner walked the halls and stairs of the Rays' home, and with quiet authority. He dispensed both medicine from his little black bag and firm instructions from his experience. Maman went back and forth with him from Armand's room to Ellen's, and Papa sat with Armand, while Renee slept unknowing. Tante Tay and Grandpierre carried basins of water and towels whenever they were needed. In the kitchen, Matilda bustled at the hearth, preparing nourishing broth, chamomile tea, and cooling pitchers of ice water. As night gave way to morning, Ellen remained feverish and restless. Suddenly she woke and turned her head on the pillow to look directly at Cecile. Her blue eyes were unusually bright. "I have it, don't I? I have the fever," Ellen cried out. Cecile was startled. At that moment, she had been worrying about Armand. She felt guilty that she hadn't even given Ellen her full attention. "Don't worry," she began to say. "Don't talk nonsense to me, miss. I saw Mr. Armand." Ellen's voice faded, and her thoughts seemed to drift. "Did I tell you my pa calls me his angel?" Cecile smiled sadly. "Yes, you did," she said. Ellen clenched the sheet roughly, as if she was in pain. Cecile half rose to get help, but Ellen whispered, "Wait, Miss Cece, wait." Cecile bit her lips. Ellen's cheeks were flushed, and she was trembling. "Ellen, let me get Dr. Gardner," Cecile pleaded. "Wait," Ellen insisted. Do you know what I think?" Cecile sat back down. "What do you think?" she replied. "I think I will be an angel," Ellen said softly. "Angels, they're neither servants nor slaves, miss. Angels are free to fly." Cecile didn't know what to say, and her throat felt so tight she wasn't sure she could breathe. Ellen was calm for a moment, but then the pain seemed to come back and her body jerked in the bed. Cecile hurried onto the balcony. "Maman, Dr. Gardner, come quick, please." As if by magic, Dr. Gardner appeared on the balcony with his bag. He glanced into the room. "Cecile, I'll take care of Ellen," he said gravely. "You may go now." "Come downstairs, Miss Cece," Matilda called from the courtyard. She stood like a soldier at the bottom of the stairs, and her white handkerchief shone like a lantern in the dawn. "You come with me, petite," she said firmly. Slowly, Cecile walked down the steps. She felt as if she were caught in a bad dream. Matilda sat her on one of Renee's small chairs and gave her coffee with chicory and lots of cream and sugar. Cecile drank the entire cup. She was bone tired, so exhausted that her arms and legs felt heavy as she moved them. The courtyard itself was a dream place. The morning sun was beginning to cast soft shadows among the lemon trees, and somewhere not far away a lonely marchande called out her song, offering cinnamon buns for sale. Cecile put both feet on the flagstone path and stood up, holding on to one table like a baby just learning to walk. When she let go, she stepped gingerly with her bare feet across the courtyard and into the house. It was quiet. She tiptoed through the dining room and slipped into the parlor, which was still darkened by shutters that were closed against the outside. She stopped. Someone was there, sitting in the dark. Cecile? Cecile turned toward the sound of her mother's voice. Maman? She blinked to make sense of the shapes in the dimness. Papa? Her parents were together, sitting on the velvet settee. What did it mean? Open the shutters, ma petite, Papa said. Cecile's heart thumped as she crossed the room to unfasten the brass hooks, and light streamed in. She turned slowly to see her parents clearly. Maman and Papa sat hand in hand, and Maman smiled tiredly, but her eyes were shining. He is awake, Cecile, Maman said. Armand is awake. The fever broke in the night, and it hasn't come back. He's hungry. Cecile couldn't believe what she was hearing. He is, she whispered. And when Maman nodded, Cecile clasped her hands with joy. He's going to get well. Papa rubbed the back of his neck wearily. I had no faith in doctors, but that Dr. Gardner, Armand will recover, yes, but it will be a long time before he has the strength to cut stone. Cecile opened her mouth, but then closed it quickly before Armand's secret slipped out. Papa gave her a small smile. Oh, I know about his painting. You two think Monsieur Fontenot wouldn't write to me of what a fine artist my son is? When he's well, we'll talk, Armand and I. Cecile rushed to give her father a kiss on his cheek. Oh, merci, Papa, merci. Cecile's thanks were interrupted by the guff sound of a man clearing his throat. It was Dr. Gardner, paused in the doorway. I have bad news, he said. Cecile froze. Papa loosened himself from his daughter, and wife stood up. Ellen has died, the doctor said softly. Papa bowed his head. Oh, mon Dieu. Poor Ellen, Maman groaned, thumping her lap with her fist. Cecile dropped onto the settee beside her mother. I'm sorry, Dr. Gardner said. Cecile could tell from the sound of his voice that he really meant it. How can he do such difficult work, she thought. He must be a very brave person. Armand is safe now, Dr. Gardner said. He must take care and get plenty of rest. Thank you for everything, Papa said, shaking the doctor's hand. Please stay and let us offer you breakfast. Thank you, but I really must go, Dr. Gardner began, buttoning his waistcoat. Coffee and a beignet? Then? I'm sure you need something. I insist, Papa said. Dr. Gardner gave a small bow in Maman's direction and followed Papa out. Maman? Cecile cried in her steady voice. Did you know that Ellen had 9 brothers? Maman's eyebrows raised in surprise. No, she said softly. I knew of 1 brother, and I know she had parents. I'll write to them. She was a kind, hard-working girl. Cecile curled up in her mother's lap. She was so big now that her hair mushed Mama's chin, but she didn't care. In her thoughts, she could hear Ellen speaking. Were it one of my brothers, I'd be crying my eyes out. And this time, Cecile couldn't hold back her tears. She sobbed, not for her brother this time, but for Ellen. Try to eat more, Cecile waved a spoonful of custard trembling in front of her brother's nose. Armand laid his head back against the pillows and laughed. Are you the mama bird? He joked. Only a few days had passed since Armand's fever had broken, and already he was teasing her again. Cecile loved it. She set the spoon back onto the dish with a clink. No, that would be Matilda. She'll flatten you up, you'll see. She'll fatten you up, you'll see. Back to normal between you, is it? Tante Tace asked, smiling as she came into the room. Not until she can pull my hair, Not until he can pull my hair, Cecile said. Armand rolled his eyes. He was thin and very pale, and he was still too weak to get out of bed. But he's alive, Cecile thought gratefully as Tante Tay picked up his breakfast tray. Then another thought tumbled after, and Ellen isn't. Cecile felt Tante Tay's watchful eyes on her. Your maman says you should let the boy get some rest, Chatterbox. Come downstairs with me. Cecile waved to her brother, whose eyelids were already drooping. He was still sleeping a lot, but Dr. Gardner had been around to say that Armand was coming along just fine. In the parlor, Cecile found Grandpierre reading the newspaper. Cochon squawked, "Pecans, girl, pecans," from his perch in the corner. Cecile dug into the pocket of her pinafore and held up a palmful of shelled pecan halves. Cochon scooped them up with his beak like the pig he truly was. Maman sat at her writing table by the window. Her wavy black hair was pulled neatly into a bun at her neck, and her round wire glasses dangled from a velvet cord against her navy linen dress. She beckoned Cecile to join her. I thought you would like to know that I've written letters to Ellen's brothers in Boston and to her parents in Ireland. She had some special things, a locket and a prayer book that Matilda will wrap, and will send those too, along with her wages. Maman's dark eyes shadowed great emotion, yet her voice was firm and steady. Cecile saw the quiet strength in her mother's face, and then she looked down, pushing the edge of the rug with her toe. Just a few weeks ago, Cecile had dreamed of a career on stage, singing, reciting poetry, and acting in plays. Attention and applause were what she had wanted. In a way, even her visits to Les Maisons had been practice for becoming famous. None of that mattered anymore. Yellow fever had changed everything. We are proud of you, Cherie. You were a great help during these difficult days, Maman smiled. There is a saying, from those of whom much is given, much is expected. Do you know what that means? Cecile looked into her mother's eyes and took a deep breath. This wasn't a test like one her tutor, Monsieur Lejeune, might quiz her with, or a riddle to see how clever she was. Maman was talking about real life, and what had been more real for her family than this summer of sorrows. I think, Cecile paused, choosing her words carefully, I think it means that what people give us, not money or fancy clothes or such things, but things like kindness and love, we should always give to someone else. She paused, uncertain, and then she brightened. I mean that we should pass those gifts on to others. Maman's eyes shone. Surely my child has grown up, she said. Grandpierre looked over the top of his newspaper. So true, he said, so true. Then he cleared his throat, and his newspaper rustled as he lowered it. And Coates, listen, he said. Here it says that Mayor Crossman has called for the citizens of New Orleans to go to church tomorrow to pray for an end of this horrible epidemic. The cathedral will be open at 11 in the morning, and we shall all go. We, all of New Orleans, shall give thanks for what we have and shed tears for what we have lost. As Cecile stepped inside St. Louis Cathedral the next morning, the chandeliers glowed gold against the ceiling, making the brilliantly painted saints and angels seem to look down from heaven. Suddenly, Cecile remembered the last words that Ellen had said to her. Now she prayed that Ellen truly was an angel, flying free. Cecile's family began walking down the aisle to find a spot in one of the wooden pews. Papa and Grandpierre led the way. Cecile walked between Maman and Tante Tay. Cecile looked up at the swelling crowd and was amazed at the scores of different kinds of people already seated or kneeling in prayer. She arched her neck and saw the carriage driver, Monsieur Antoinette, across the aisle, looking uncomfortably stiff in a dark shift and a red waistcoat. His face looked long and sad. Maybe he had lost someone to the fever, too. She spotted her tutor, Monsieur Lejeune, up front. Nearby were some soldiers in uniform, standing at attention. And there on the other side of the aisle were two Americans who had once been so rude to Grandpierre in Madame Zulime's praline shop. Suddenly, Cecile's anger at them was gone as she realized the sad reason they might be here. Cecile pulled her rosary from her pocket and began to finger the beads. The scent of candle wax, spicy incense, and women's perfume mingled together, making the warm air heavy and hard to breathe. Papa found a pew that was still half empty. He went in first, then Grandpierre and Maman. Cecile was about, oh, I gotta look at that. Cecile was about to follow when she saw a tall, well-dressed man pause by a stand of small candles near the front of the church. With him was a girl about her own age. Cecile caught her breath. It was Marie Grace and her Uncle Luke. Tante Tay, come with me. Cecile clutched her aunt's arm, knowing that it would not be proper for her to leave the pew alone. That's Dr. Gardner's daughter. I must say something to her. Cecile tugged Tante Octavia's toward the stand of candles. As they got close, Cecile saw Marie Grace light a candle and then kneel on the velvet cushion in front of the stand. The joyful thanks that Cecile had been saving caught in her throat. If Marie Grace is lighting a candle, Cecile realized, that means she is offering a special prayer for someone. Marie Grace? Cecile knelt beside her friend. Oh, Cecile, Marie Grace wrapped her arms around Cecile. It's Mademoiselle Oceane, she whispered. Cecile gasped. She glanced up and saw Monsieur Luc's worried eyes. She didn't want to believe the news. Mademoiselle Oceane was so kind to them, and she and Monsieur Luc were getting married. Cecile knew how much Marie Grace wanted her for her aunt. Marie Grace's own mother had died, and Mademoiselle Oceane was very kind to her. Cecile grasped Marie Grace's hand. What could she say to comfort her friend? It was Tante Tay who invited Marie Grace and her uncle to come to the pew with the Ray family. Monsieur Luc slipped in beside Grandpierre. The girls sat together. She's so sick, Marie Grace whispered. Even Papa isn't sure. She couldn't continue. Your father is a wonderful doctor. I know he will help Mademoiselle, just as he helped Armand, Cecile said. Thank you for sending him. Marie Grace nodded, wiping her eyes with her handkerchief. I'm so glad that Armand is better. Papa told me that Ellen died. I'm sorry. Your father did all he could, Cecile said. The girls knelt shoulder to shoulder, saying nothing more until the cathedral organ began to hum. The entire building echoed the instrument's majestic sounds. Cecile lifted her rosary and saw a flicker of candlelight bounce off its beads. Each bead is a prayer, she said to Marie Grace, raising her voice to be heard over the music. I know. Marie Grace pulled her own rosary from the pocket of her dress. Uncle Luc gave me one. Cecile looked down at the small jewel-like beads. They sparked a more hopeful thought in her mind. I think I'll start making a beaded purse for Mademoiselle Oceane for her wedding. She could see it already, tiny beads stitched into a beautiful pattern. Would you do it with me? My beads will be prayer, and your beads will be hope. And when we finish, she will have the most special wedding gift. Marie Grace's worried expression softened. Mademoiselle Oceane will come back to us, Cecile said. I know it. New Orleans will come back to us too, she thought. She looked up at the domed building ceiling, filled with angels flying, as Mass began. Okay, and that is the end of chapter 6. And next time we'll read Looking Back, A Peek into the Past in 1853.